Well, hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, just depending on when you're catching these live videos. As always, I want to say thank you for those who have been watching and liking and commenting as I'm using these videos to be able to reach out to people. So yesterday, I started part 1 on how to deal with toxic family members. Now, yesterday's video went about 18 minutes roughly, okay? Now, today, I don't know how long it's going to go, but I've got quite a bit of information to finish part 2 today on how we're going to deal and what we're seeing with toxic family members, okay? But what I want to do is add value and let you know that you are unique, you are special, and you deserve to be loved. And more importantly, how to be able to learn, understand, cope, deal, and move on through these kind of relationships, especially when it comes to family. All right. Now I am going to start with my quote to kick this off. If you don't make your dreams a reality, reality will take away your dreams. That's by Eric Peel. All right. So I'm going to jump straight in. Now, I last left off talking about how you're dealing with those who are emotionally tearing you down and how to identify those people who are toxic. Now I'm going to start with create change by being the change. So how to deal with toxic family members. Is it ever okay to walk away and cut them off? I can't answer this for everyone. I can't. Sometimes it's really the only option though. But making the choice to cut someone off for good, this is not the answer for everybody. If you're alone and subjected to abuse in private that is hidden from others, then you owe it to yourself to get out. Anything that is hidden from others but happening to you in private is a reason to leave and find your own safe space. Never accept being someone's emotional punching bag or physical one, certainly not. Sometimes leaving gives you the space to relate to someone in a new, safer, and more self-empowered way. A child cannot make this choice, but as an adult, we can. We can choose. Moving out of a home, moving away, placing your own stamp on independence on your life. Learning to be self-sufficient is a challenging but rewarding adventure when you have escaped the clutches and mind games. And yet everyone gets up the next day and goes out into the world the next moment. Now, I'm not telling you that dealing with toxic family members it's easy. It's not. It's hard. It's often a dirty secret that we end up hiding. So how else can you deal with this? Start off by setting boundaries. You might not be able to stop them, but you don't have to be them. If you feel abused and unloved and uncared for, but are trying to put up with it because it comes from a family member, protect yourself. Keep your distance as much as you can. Watch for trigger situations and avoid them. Do not engage if you can avoid it. Also, please know this. You are not there to fix them. You do not have to assist and help them through every crisis and drama they're involved with. Sometimes the transactions just get worse. And oftentimes it gets a lot worse before it gets better. So be clear about your boundaries and enforce them. Expect for them to not like your boundaries. Do not buy into their emotional and manipulative arguments about your request. Just stand by them. If you cannot get support from other family members who are also aware of the situation, do your best to love yourself. Self-care is your first priority. Take care of you. Talk to someone who you trust and can confide in. Get some help from a professional or seek legal advice if you have a real concern about your safety or mental well-being. Don't keep everything under wraps. There is a saying where only as sick as our secrets. Think about that. What are you hiding? And why? Most likely it's probably tied to guilt and shame regarding your circumstances. If you know you need help, then get it. Love yourself enough to do this. Remember, self-care is your top priority, no matter what kind of toxic situation you're in. We've all heard about blood being thicker than water. But with a toxic family member, no strong and wholesome bond is created. The bond does not exist in a healthy, sustainable way. You owe yourself the highest duty of care. And when a toxic family member is unable to treat you with decency, love, and respect, you owe it to yourself to stay emotionally unentwined, separated, so you can stay emotionally healthy. To identify those toxic family patterns and behaviors. To recognize the destructive outcomes of these behaviors and to not accept them. I'll say it again. Remember, relationships are all about the bond. Stay healthy. Keep your boundaries strong. And walk away from toxic people and situations that mirror any kind of destruction that you may have grown up with or that you're dealing with. By staying healthy, you give yourself the opportunity to create bonds with other healthy people. This is where you'll find love and peace that you're looking for. Sometimes the tribe we connect with are not the same people we grew up with. Sometimes the love and kindness we receive aren't from the ones we have blood ties with. Grieve it, but don't let it hold you frozen in the moment. Time is the one thing we never, ever get back. It's gone, it's spent, it's wasted. The past doesn't have to define your future. Do not let and waste your time watering rocks. And don't waste your time hoping someone might change or morph into the person you desperately wish they were. No matter how hard it is, sometimes we must accept the people who should mean the most to us are sometimes the ones who do the least for us. Breaking the chain. I believe that in any negative situation, there's usually something good to find. My story is one that took me years to find for myself. But I never gave up on my goal. I clung to it. I just held on to it as fuel to keep me going during the rough times, the times where I was falling down, but I was getting back up. I had my own values, and I wanted to live life by those. And it was absolutely worth, and it continues to be worth fighting for. When you're dealing with toxic family members, be the person they cannot be. Stand up and lead the way to be a better way of doing things, a better way of life, a life where love and trust exist, a new way of thinking. We're all scared in some way, shape, or form. We all have a past. Many of us have endured imaginable hurts, damage, and pain. These scars remind us that you fought and that you survived, and you made a choice about the way you wanted to live your life. We are not the sum total of the people who have hurt or damaged us. We are the people who have lived with things we do not like or want and have moved on wanting to thrive, to live. Not to exist in another person's toxic world of pain and shame. To ensure that we will not replicate the same world of the toxic people that we've been around. Break the chain. There's a massive difference between tolerating familiar or family toxicity and feeling powerless to change it, as opposed to defining our boundaries about what we will and won't accept. Stand by your boundaries. Something else to think about. Even if someone else cannot respect those boundaries, as long as you do, you can move forward. You can live without the approval of others. The hard part is we often desperately want the approval of others when we are going through those hard times. Hardship builds a strong person. You learn very quickly that your priorities matter, especially if they are in the expense of someone else's damaging behavior. You connect with yourself in a way many people never learn to do. There's always something great to be born out of pain. Some of the most beautiful souls out there have learned to take care of themselves because they had to. You may not realize it, but you have identified with your worthiness despite it not being recognized or respected by others. We develop incredible qualities of resilience when faced with criticism and unloving treatment of others. Resiliency is the key because it teaches you to bounce back. You don't absorb others' negativity. It's like a waterproof coating. You begin to see and understand that what happens around you and to you does not define your worth. It doesn't need to define what your future is either. You are never alone. You will always have yourself. And when you truly value yourself, you will know just how powerful this place is. I'm going to give you some powerful ways to deal with toxic family members. Number one, be empowered by your motives. Sometimes toxic people will trap you like a hunted item or thing. You know you don't have to give in, but you also know that there will be consequences if you don't. The secret is to make your decision from a position of power rather than feeling controlled. In the same way, there's something that they want from you. There will always be something that they want. Decide what you're going to do and how you're going to control the situation and your behavior. Personal power is everything. So to do with it and believe in it will help you through it. Number two, understand why they're seeing what they see in you. Toxic people will always see in others what they don't want to acknowledge about themselves. It's called projection. You can be the kindest, most generous, hardworking person on the planet, and toxic people will turn themselves inside out trying to convince you that you're a liar, you're unfair, you're nasty, you're a slacker. See it for what it is. You know the truth, even if they never will. Number three, they might get worse before they will leave you alone. Think of it like this. Take a person who's throwing a temper tantrum. When you stand strong and don't give in, they'll go harder for a while. We all tend to do that. When something we're doing stops working, we'll give in and then we'll go harder for a while. So before we stop, we'll push even harder. Toxic people are no different. If they've found a way to control and manipulate you and it stops working, they'll do more of whatever used to work before they back off and find themselves another target. Don't take their escalations as a stop sign. Take it as a sign that you're doing and teaching them that what their old behavior is won't work anymore. Keep going and give them time to be convinced that you're not going to be around, and help them make the decision to keep pushing you. Number four, be clear about your boundaries. You cannot please everyone. But toxic people will have you believe that you can't please anyone. So you try harder, you work harder, you compromise more, and it's absolutely exhausting. Toxic people will have your boundaries torn down and buried before you can even realize that you had one. By knowing exactly what you'll tolerate and what you want and why, you can decide how far you're willing to let them go and how much you're allowing them to push your boundaries before it's just not worth it anymore. You don't have to stop, and you don't have to help them through every crisis. Number 5. The reason that toxic people are often in crisis is that they're masterful at creating them. It's what they do. Draw a breath and create drama. You do not have to continue to help them through their crises. Number 6, you don't have to explain yourself. No is a complete sentence and one of the most powerful words in any language. You don't need to explain, justify, or make excuses. No is the guardian at your front gate that makes sure that the contamination from toxic people doesn't get through to you. Number 7, don't judge. Be understanding, compassionate, kind, and respectful, but be all of them to yourself first. You can reject behavior, requests, and people without turning yourself into someone you wouldn't like to be with. Strength and compassion can exist beautifully at the edge of your boundaries. It'll always feel easier to be okay about putting up your boundaries if you haven't hurt yourself or someone else in the process. Own your strengths and your weaknesses. Number 8, own your strengths and weaknesses. We're all messy, beautiful, brilliant work in progress. Once you're aware of your flaws, nobody can use them against you. Toxic people will work hard to play on your flaws and play down your strengths. It's how they gain their power. If you're able to own your strengths and your weaknesses, what they think won't matter. Because you'll know that your strengths are more than enough to make your flaws not matter. Or at very least, to make them yesterday's news. Number 9, don't expect change. You can't reason with toxic people. That's one of the things that make them toxic. Decide where you stand and then stand strong. You don't need to do any more than that. They will try to make you bend, flex, and break at the seams. Because you have an open heart, the thought that someone might misunderstand you, disapprove of you, or dislike you might get to you. But remember, you're not dealing with someone who is motivated by what's good for you or your relationship. It's always about them, and it always will be. Decide that sometimes you're going to make it about you. It's what you deserve. Number 10, choose your battles wisely. Dealing with toxic people takes an enormous amount of energy. You don't have to step up to every battle that you're called to. For many toxic people, conflict is the only way they can connect. It's the way they feel alive, noticed, and important. Save your energy for the people who matter. Number 11, don't be the victim. People can pity themselves sometimes, but you're not going to be one of them. Decide that you won't be anyone's victim. Instead, be the one with boundaries, the strength, the smarts, and the power to make the decisions that will help you continue to thrive. Even if their decisions affect you, make your own that moves you towards what you want and desire. You are amazing. You are strong. And you are powerful, which is why you are nobody's victim. Nobody's. Number 13, surround yourself with people who will give as much as you do. You might not have as much freedom in certain parts of your life to decide who's in and who's out. But when it comes to the ones you open your heart to, you absolutely have the choice. Choose wisely and don't be afraid to let them know what they mean to you. Understand the cycle. There's a pattern that toxic people will display. First, they're charming. This is when they'll get you. They'll be attentive, loving, and impressive. But all of it will be to get you into position. Next, when they have your trust, you'll start to see the cracks. They'll be mounting demands and rising and pulling on your emotional resources. Then there will be a crisis. The test. You'll feel stuck. Whether or not you give them what they want, you will feel compromised. Finally, you'll do what they want because you don't want them. You don't want them to feel like you've compromised. Finally, because you don't want to be that person who just rejects the help and causes more drama, you invite them charming selves back in, giving them just enough for what they need to stay. The problem is that the lovingness, the trust, the kindness, it doesn't last. It always comes at a cost. Be aware of the cycle. Build your boundaries. Become a solid foundation. If you can't get out of a relationship, know that you're not staying because you've allowed yourself to be fooled or blindsided, but because you have your eyes on something bigger than you need. And finally, I'm going to end with this one. You don't need their approval. You don't. You really, really don't. Don't look for their approval or their appreciation. You won't get it unless it comes with conditions, all of which will hurt you. You'll constantly feel drained because they'll draw on your open heart, your emotional generosity, your reasonableness, your compassion, and your humanity. And they will give absolutely nothing back. Give what you need to, but don't give any more than that in the hope of getting something back. There will never be any more than minimal, and even that will come with conditions. Whatever you do, know why you're doing what you're doing and make sure the reasons are good enough. Dealing with toxic family is not only completely emotional draining, it hurts your heart. It hurts your soul. There are so many people out there who are struggling, who do not know how to break away from these situations. Seek help. Seek guidance. There are so many people out there who will show you love, compassion, and understanding. So please, if you know anyone who needs to hear this information, please share these videos. This is part 2. Go back and listen to part 1. As always, I truly hope that these messages can connect with the right people. That if I help just one person, especially through these times, deal with toxic family members, it's absolutely worth every moment in time that I spend. And if you know someone who's in these situations, please, any means necessary, help them any way possible. Go through this. Reach out to me. Reach out to legal people. Reach out to a therapist. Whatever it may look like. But find some help. As always, I'm truly humbled and blessed that you have taken time to watch these videos. It means the absolute world to me. Just getting this information out is absolutely important and very critical for a lot of people out there who are struggling. And I hope that this finds you well. As always, thanks for everything. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Be well. Be blessed. Until the next time we talk, take care of yourself and each other.